This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Mickey balloons are insanely popular and truly unique. I would argue that there is no more iconic a product tied to Disney parks than the Mickey balloon. But the parks weren't always filled with these colorful balloons encased in crystal clear plastic. In fact, when Disneyland first opened, the big-eared balloons were nowhere to be found. So how did these poppable pieces of pop art become so legendary? Well, to figure that out, we're gonna have to go back, all the way back, to when it started with a mouse and a balloon shaped like him. And make sure you check out my new website, chucklekingdom.com, for fun park apparel. Here's some unnecessary context, but perfectly necessary history about balloons. The first rubber balloons were made by Professor Michael Faraday in 1824, who was looking for a safe way to store gas. But simple toy balloons go back even further. There are early Aztec records showing people playing with organic balloons made from pig bladders and intestines. There are paintings, like old-timey paintings of kids joyfully playing with a tied-off pig organ filled with hydrogen. If these paintings don't haunt you for the rest of your life, I don't know what will. So how old are Mickey balloons? Way older than you think. First appearing in the homes of Americans in the 1930s and 40s as a party favor, a specialized themed balloon for birthday parties and celebrations, it had its own one-of-a-kind look. Crafted by the Oak Rubber Company in Ohio, the manufacturer loved playing around with odd-shaped balloons. They offered a Mickey with a body and paper feet that, when inflated, would always land on his feet when tossed in the air. But the real popular product was the simple two-eared Mickey balloon, made in bulk and decorated by hand, with each balloon blown up individually and then stamped with the Mickey face. That had to be so much work! We had dozens of variations of these novelty balloons throughout the 1950s from the Oak Rubber Company. This place went ham with balloons, baby. You could find these balloons literally everywhere kids gathered. I found a photo of Central Park in the 1930s, and right there, a balloon floating above the food stand. It's Mickey Mouse! You can see images of circuses in the 1940s where there's vendors selling the giant inflatable Mickey faces. They were everywhere. So how are these odd-shaped balloons even made? Well, just like they're made today! Nothing's really changed! Just watch any balloon how it's made on YouTube and you'll get the idea. Molds are dipped into vats of liquid rubber, inflated to be printed on and tested, then shipped off to jolly consumers like you. And would you believe it, if you search deep enough into Disney vintage antiques, you can unearth literal sheets of the original Mickey molds that they used to make these balloons. It's a wild antique that I honestly want one. Like, what a cool conversation piece. Just get 1 or 2 rows of these, I'll be cranking out my own Etsy Mickey balloon shops. Come on, come on. I'm gonna make Mickey balloons, but I'm just gonna stamp my big mug on them. Oak Rubber used this technique of odd molds to make literally the weirdest balloon shapes. We can't even go down that rabbit hole, guys, or I will literally implode. Or explode, you know, like a balloon. We just can't do it. So believe it or not, the first year of Disneyland's operation in 1955, there wasn't a single Mickey balloon to be found. Despite them being an incredibly popular staple for close to 15 years at this point, the park was instead filled with basic round balloons with Disneyland branding. These balloons were called agates because the latex marbling that was used to make the balloons turned out to have this effect like a precious gem, like an agate. Hey, baby, you looking agate. That means like you look like a fine precious gem that is rippled with many colorful textures and layers. And second thought, don't tell anyone they look like an agate. That could be mildly offensive. All right, here's where it gets good. It's 1956, Disneyland. The park's been open for 1 year, and the Mickey balloons finally make their appearance for 35 cents a piece. When veteran circus producer Nat Lewis joined the Disneyland crew to lead the balloon program production, he changed the game immediately. He originated the entire Balloon Room program, training the staff to keep their hands full and strategically positioned. One of the most important things Nat ever did for the balloon program at Disney was hire a young man named Treb Henning, a balloon genius in the making, but more on him later. Now, one of the things Nat Lewis did was strategically place balloon sales boys all around the park. In fact, there were 5 locations that you could find balloons being sold at Disneyland on any given day. There was one on each side of the park exit gates, Fantasyland, Small World, and a location called Subland, which was the space between Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. And they loved dressing up the balloon boys to match all the corners of the parks, like the spaceman from Tomorrowland. The way he's dressed, it looks like his goal is he's gathering balloons from guests in order to take off and leave this earthly plane. Good luck, sir. I salute you, wherever you may be floating today. I'm just picturing some elderly man. Help! I've been floating up here for 90 years. So let's get into a little bit of Walt's balloon ideals and why Nat Lewis was so great at implementing them. Walt did not want a carnival atmosphere for his park. He did not want anyone barking and shouting, and that rule applied to balloon sellers. They were not allowed to shout, "Get your balloons here!" They had to wait for guests to approach them. It's always fun to shout, "Get your balloons here! Balloons! Get your Mickey balloons!" A key tactic to doing this was keeping what was called a full umbrella, meaning a massive collection of balloons held high as a spectacle so guests could wander close in with a curious gaze and say, "Hey, wow, that's so cool. Hey, anyway, how much are these things?" The team was trained to bury the price of a balloon in all sorts of small talk to distract the customer from the impulse buy they were about to make. In fact, here's a quote from balloon whiz kid Treb Henning himself. We were taught that when a guest asks about the balloons and asks the price, I would say, "My balloons are 50 cents. I don't know what color you like, but I have a green one, a red one, a blue one. Oh, and this new one, a white one." I would talk about the product and then, boom, sales, baby. Because then they forgot about the price and all they wanted was a balloon. They were thinking about their favorite color and the magic of Mickey. Let's get back to the design of the balloons in the late 50s and early 60s. They sold regular shaped balloons with a print of Mickey Mouse's face on it, as well as the continued sale of the agate design, but the Mickey Mouse shaped balloons had black dipped ears, which was kind of an odd choice. Maybe they were trying to replicate a Mickey Mouse Club look, like the balloon had their own pair of Mickey ears. I'm not exactly sure. The latex would oxidize throughout the day of use, changing from those shiny balloons into a dull matte texture. And as a side effect of the weakened latex, the air would leak out, leaving one or both of the ears deflated. This was a serious problem that plagued Mickey balloons for decades. Also, if you want less sunlight, maybe don't dip it in black. The thing that heats up the quickest. Anyone who went to a single science fair remembers that experiment with an ice cube on a white sheet of paper and an ice cube on a black sheet of paper. We know how the sun works. Hey, it's the 1970s. It's time for groovy balloons. You know, time to open up Disney World and get wild in Florida. The 1970s brought a brand new Mickey balloon to the parks. Much larger, much brighter, and now it's 50 cents. Man, wouldn't you love to just go into the park with 2 quarters and walk out with any piece of merchandise? You even need an additional penny just to get a pressed penny with those 2 quarters. You can't get anything for 50 cents at Disney World. Well, you could take some free napkins though, I guess. The ears were much larger with a modified mold. You had a very distinct round shape for all 3 elements of the design now. It's a much cleaner look. I love this improved Mickey design from the 70s. They're essentially the same design from previous years, and they're essentially the balloons that we have in the parks today. And yet, despite being new, they were still riddled with that same issue of deflating ears. One quick workaround came from the invention of the magical metallic sheeted Mylar in the 1980s. It's the 80s, baby! Everything's shiny now! Invented in 1979, a metallized nylon known as Mylar was a thin material that when stretched was less permeable than latex and could hold its shape for weeks instead of hours.
Just one metallic balloon can cause a surge of electricity that short-circuits equipment and triggers an explosion.
Disney took the Mylar balloon craze and created some distinct Mickey and Minnie balloons that still exist in the park today in some form or another. Mylar, of course, though, are the type of balloons you find at the grocery store in the floral section. And to be honest, they're not the best looking balloons to me. Like all the edges have like all those crinkly wrinkles, you know? I don't like I don't need overly wrinkly things, all right? But honestly, they just feel too overly commercial, like too available to me. There really isn't anything that magical about a Mylar balloon at Disney World because I could just get one at CVS. Now is the time that we need to talk about Treb. Remember him? Remember that guy? Let's talk about how iconic Treb is. When you work for the Disneyland Balloon Room, you become a master at inflating balloons and tying them off. He could inflate like 100 balloons tied in under a minute. It was this skill that Treb carried with him after he left Disneyland, and he used at multiple catering events where he wowed his employers with multiple balloon creations he could muster in minutes. It was at one of these faithful catering events that changed the face of balloons forever. Explosion. Cut to 1979. Cher's kid is having their 3rd birthday, and Treb is on facility to help with the event space and strings together a few hundred balloons into an arch that hung across the tennis court. This is actually the first ever documented case of a balloon arch. Why aren't you more impressed by that? When I found this out, I was like, whoa! And you're just sitting there in your couch still eating chips. From there, Cher loved the balloon arch and told everyone, and his business took off like crazy. His company, Balloon Art by Treb, was grossing around $1 million a year in the early 1980s, and this kid was in his 20s. It's crazy, man. This guy was the balloon king. Let's just make a documentary on him, Kenny. What are we even doing? Look, you might not understand the significance of this because today balloons are everywhere for you. But back in the day, we didn't use balloons nearly in the way we use them now to celebrate. It was not commonplace to see dozens and dozens of balloons displayed in huge big things like we see today. We didn't use balloons to celebrate in mass. So after all of his lucrative deals with places like the Super Bowl, where his balloon spectacle popped off, Disney came knocking at his door, and Treb was more than excited to come home. Throughout the 1980s, Treb filled Disneyland with balloons. Strings upon strings of balloons. Stage shows, anniversaries, special events, Treb was literally making art. That giant 30 over Disneyland for its 30th, that was Treb. A canopy of balloons over Main Street, that was Treb too. It's amazing, and the deeper you dive inside Treb's connections in the balloon industry, you finally realize that he solved Disney's biggest merchandising problem ever. In the early 1980s, Treb was approached by the Takara Kosan Company, a balloon manufacturer in Japan that invented a new material called the T-balloon, a crystal clear plastic that wouldn't leak helium, and to house a smaller balloon inside for UV protection, a material that was great but extremely expensive. Some 15 years later, sitting in 1995 LA traffic, Treb had a stroke of genius to revisit this material as a problem solver for the flawed latex Mickey balloons. Treb prototyped this new design for the 1997 LA County Fair and then quickly took the idea to the Disney company. Entered the glass house, the perfect balloon. With its safety UV shield, the Mickey balloon inside would stay inflated for days, and the magic bubble over the bright colored core made for such a brilliant visual that it's unlike anything ever seen. It first hit the parks at the 1998 rededication of Tomorrowland, and it changed the future of balloons forever. In fact, it was the future of balloons because it was only sold in Tomorrowland as that, the future of balloons. I have to imagine, 1998, I would have been 11, walking around Tomorrowland, seeing one of these things, my brain would have just like popped. These balloons are so iconic that they pretty much have not left the parks since. So where do you even go from the glass house? Well, Treb, the genius, kept inventing, and in 2002, he gave us the light-up glass house. Of course, put a glow stick in there, baby. equipping both the standard Mickey balloons and the string to light up, giving an amazing effect. Now balloons are out of control. We've got BB-8 balloons, 50th anniversary balloons, princess balloons, Easter balloons, balloon popcorn buckets, balloon Mickey ears. There's balloon everything. This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Choco Kingdom is now live, my brand new Squarespace site where I'm selling super serious theme park inspired apparel. Oh man, I'm gonna look so cool when I go to the parks now. Squarespace gives people a powerful and beautiful online platform from which to create your website. Connect your audience and generate revenue through gated members-only content, manage your members, send email communications, and leverage audience insights all in one easy-to-use platform. Create a community on your Squarespace website with fully integrated commenting systems that support threaded comments, replies, and likes. Use their powerful blogging tools to categorize, share, and schedule your posts too. Automatically push website content to your favorite social media channels so your followers can share it too. Extend Squarespace's already powerful e-commerce capabilities with Squarespace extensions. These new third-party tools can help you manage your inventory, promote products, streamline bookkeeping, reconcile and file sales tax, and ship items across the globe. Check out all these fun designs by artist Jess Siswick that you can now order. Man, Kenny, these t-shirts are really popping off! All right, that's the last balloon joke I'm gonna make, I promise. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/DisneyDan to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So there is the history of the Mickey balloon. Of course, we've done all kinds of wild things, printing balloons in different ways, experimenting with different colors, but the core history of the balloon shape and size has just been laid out before you. Now you are a Mickey balloon expert. Take this knowledge and explore the world with pride, and tell every balloon vendor you meet about the history of Mickey balloons. I did. I told at least 4 Mickey balloon vendors at Disney World the history, and they just looked at me with this glazed stare, and in that moment, I felt truly like a dad, just mansplaining something I was so excited to talk about, and to an audience of no one interested. I'm sure all of you guys have purchased all kinds of Mickey balloons throughout the years. Let me know what balloons have been your favorite. Send me photos over on the holy social media of you enjoying Mickey balloons, like on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, TikTok. I love to see you guys in the parks having a great time, and I loved researching this. This was such a fun story. Who knew that there was so much lore behind those 2 inflated ears? Thanks for watching, guys. As always, you rock. They're nice. Apparently they're sold out. Apparently there's a distribution issue with the Mickey balloon glasshouse balloons. The balloons we came here to see. That they don't have. But they have a substitute, which is the regular Mickey latex balloon, which we've seen since 1956 in the parks, in the glass house itself. So that's pretty cool. It's cool to see that there's at least one Mickey balloon glass housed. But we have that Easter one too, where there's like an Easter print on the plastic, and then just a green latex balloon. It's cool. I'm being assaulted. What are your balloon tips so I can share them in my video from the balloon women themselves?
This one's easy, you just pop the string off and it'll deflate. So that one's really easy. This one, same thing, but you need to put a straw in the mouth.
Oh, okay. Did you inflate all these?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Back in the day,
we have a
you
separate
would.
inflator.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How fast do they do it?
Couple
Are they like a
seconds.
lightning
Yeah.
thing?